As we start to wrap up 2020, thank goodness, and get ready for 2021, we're bringing you a two-part series on communication. We hope you enjoy it. So I'll start today with a couple of observations. Last week, I went into the Fayette County Clerk's office at a designated time that I had booked online, and I found myself in a room with a clerk showing the proof of my identification and applying for, yes, a marriage license with my soon-to-be partner in crime. Now, I don't remember how much about that first time that I applied for a marriage license, but I do remember that back in 1996, it wasn't this easy. And as we left the clerk's office, it occurred to me that even the freaking parking meters have changed recently. You now receive a token to leave the parking garage. You put it in the little thing, Just another sign of our move towards a cashless society. And later that day, as it was a Friday and I was wrapping up my week, I found myself sitting in my car, rapidly texting my Instacart personal shopper while waiting to go into my chiropractor's office. I had to wait until they could tell me it was safe to enter said premises. Even going to the doctor now looks very different. You see forms are texted that you fill out prior to the appointment. No, yes, no. And no one sits in a waiting room anymore. Actually, but in reality, does anyone actually miss that? As someone who likes to overcommit myself to everyday tasks and finds that texting does save a ton of time, these COVID-induced changes in how we communicate are frustrating for the extrovert in me, who misses those face-to-face interactions with other human beings. Seems like those days are over. We never even really talk to a real person on the end of those 800 numbers anymore that we call. It's tough to talk and tough to think that we're headed for a time when email is only used to log complaints when your IA bot couldn't resolve your issue. See, I'm one of those Gen Xers who was raised to believe that in business, folks, in business, the first no meant that you're not talking to the right person, and the second no probably meant that person didn't actually understand what you're trying to accomplish. It was all about learning clear, concise communication. And we live in a society today where good communication is not only uncommon, it's undervalued. Yes, it does seem that as we move into 2021, one of the many tragedies of COVID will be a fundamental shift away from interpersonal communication. Unlike our office, where our client families can choose to receive an appointment reminder via text or phone call or email, it appears the rest of the world is actually moving to a model where personal phone calls don't exist and email is only used to send off a complaint. Now, it's all about texting yes to confirm, choosing to participate, or stop to opt out of everything. And at the risk of further dating myself, I know, every day I live I feel like older. Less than a decade ago, I was the one telling all the new folks in this office that the only way you conduct business was either in person or on the phone, when in person, of course, wasn't possible. So you can hear the person's voice and emotions, see the person's emotions as they communicate. And of course, in our business, we still do need voice confirmation for trade requests and withdrawals, but in many industries, these kinds of communications are now completely electronic. No face-to-face, no person-to-person. While we're on that topic, don't even get me started on my kids' education or lack thereof. We've lived on Zoom for nearly 9 months, and while my boys are happy in the familial sense, they're absolute terrorists when it comes to school. They're not progressing in their studies, but perhaps more importantly, they're not building their social communication skills. They're not negotiating dessert trades in the school cafeteria or working out the recess hierarchy of who goes first on the jungle gym, who gets picked first or last for kickball. Conflict resolution literally starts on the playground, and our kids aren't learning that. One thing we're in grave danger of losing is the ability to use effective personal communication as a teaching tool. I'm seeing a complete breakdown in the development of communication skills, particularly among students of all ages and recent graduates that we talk to that are entering the workforce. Our young folks are being robbed of developing these skills. And beyond that, think about all the daily chats that you've missed out on this year. From a daily hello to the mailman, hey, to chats in the grocery store line with strangers, to talking to your neighbors over the fence or a backyard beer, or perhaps participating in a church as a member of your congregation. And yes, folks, I realize I just used beer and church in the same sentence. Can't help it. I'm fearful that we're not just a little thicker in the waist after this year. We failed to communicate and exercise those communication skills with other people. And COVID-19 and the economic shutdown have significantly altered how we interact. And as things start to reopen, it will be very interesting for me to see how our younger generations are affected. Now, in case you think I'm only seeing the negative, I do want to talk a little about the effect 2020 has had on technology and its user base. Some things have changed for the better. They really have. For years, people joked that when folks retired, they dropped off the face of the earth and stopped learning anything new until they died. Well, one good thing that I've seen is that our older generations have proved that joke wrong and shown that they can learn some new tricks. I've been absolutely amazed this year by how many 80 and 90-year-olds have learned Zoom or FaceTime so that they can proactively visit with their kids and grandkids. There's a whole new set of folks learning to use that smart technology in that actual smartphone. And in my day-to-day business, we've always had some clients who preferred or needed to take meetings as conference calls or face-to-face meetings that were generally preferred by the retirees because they had the time for it. For them, it's really a social visit, and we love that. We do. Of course, we've had to greatly limit the number of socially distanced in-person meetings we've had. Only a handful were necessary due to the technology just not working. But I find that really impressive. People really came through in a crunch. To wrap up, kudos to all of you for everything that you've learned and adapted to in the year 2020. You've been an inspiration to me. And next week, stay tuned for part 2 when we talk about how all of us can work on improving our communication skills in 2021 and beyond.